Hello out there folks, it's Dave here from Davestation VR, and today I'm here to talk about a game called Detached for PSVR. Now this is our very first spacewalking simulator for PSVR, and it's kind of like an adventure, puzzle, exploration game. It's got a really unique control system with a lot of different options and settings you can, tweak on and off, and various difficulty levels as far as the controls go. But while it takes some getting used to for sure on any setting, it really nails the feeling of zero-G kind of locomotion and physics floating around in space. Even if you're in a room or, whatever, don't expect to think of the floor as a fixed thing. You just have to give up any thought of up and down. You're just spinning everywhere. It's great. It's fucking great. I really like the feeling of this. And it's one of the coolest feelings in VR that I've had. Now, I'll come back to this later, but I wish the game around it was a little better, but we'll get to that. So, I want to say really big warning here. If you have motion sickness, don't try to play this on, maximum settings with all the comfort options turned off. You're probably going to vomit. It's pretty crazy. If you spin yourself the wrong way, if you bounce into a wall, you're going to experience some shit in VR that you're not used to. And even just the locomotion itself is a little disorienting because there is no sense of up and down. Everything is just swirling around you. And it's hard to get used to, but once you settle into it, oh my god, it feels so good. So the first half of the game or so is pretty linear, fairly straightforward. You gotta go around turning on certain stuff to get the space station back online, picking up whatever items they want, and they pretty much point you in the direction of what you're supposed to be doing. And that part works pretty well. The checkpoint system works just fine there, and I had a good time playing through the first level of this game. Once you get into the second half of the game, it's much more open, there's less structure, and to me there's not nearly enough checkpoints. So you're in a much larger environment, which is sort of space ruins of an exploded ship. But there's huge areas that you can spend a lot of time, rocketing over to, exploring, and there's nothing there. There's not even an oxygen pack to refill you. There's no fuel. A lot of the things that you have to do require these cubes called NAND cubes in the game, and they're just really hard to find. They're very sparsely populated, and so you end up spending all your time wandering around this big area to go on a loot hunt. And you see these areas that are really unpopulated and there's nothing to do. And then once you get into the actual missions of level 2 or level 3, the checkpoint system is set up in a way where it really punishes you if you fail. And this game is very easy to fail in because running into a wall at high speed will kill you immediately. The concept is you're in space, you can't run into a wall going that fast. You would crack your, your suit, whatever. But in the gameplay sense, it's really hard because there's times where you go through a 15-minute process to get to, 2/3 of the way through this one objective that you finally found out in the middle of space without any, map or objective markers or anything like that would help you. You finally found it, right? And 15 minutes in. And then you slam your head on a wall accidentally and you're dead and you have to do it all over again. And so the goodwill that I built up for the game over the first half it really started to erode as I went on. So I will say I feel like the first half of this game is a really solid proof of concept of like how to do a good kind of lost in space, floating around, spacewalking, exploration adventure game. I really liked it, and once you get into the movement scheme and the control setup, it feels great. There's something so free about just the kind of spinning around in space. Once you stop thinking about, like, am I facing the right way? It doesn't matter anymore, and it's just fun. But the gameplay hinders it in the second half, and so I can't really give it a full recommendation because it really frustrated me in a lot of parts. And in a way where I felt like it just didn't need to. If the checkpoint system was set up better, like if you started a mission and then at the beginning of that mission, you got a checkpoint. That's not how it works. You have to start all the way back at the beginning of the level from wherever you were, and it's just a real pain in the ass. I think the overall gameplay time, because of that sort of stuff, can really vary. If you get through it on the first try, you could probably beat the game in 2.5 hours. If you're like me, it's going to take you like 5 or so, because you just keep dying and dying on the second part, and you can't make progress. I don't even want to start speaking about running out of oxygen and not being able to find any oxygen. But anyways, there is also a multiplayer mode, but I wasn't able to get into any matches. There didn't really seem to be anybody online, so I don't know if there's issues with the matchmaking or if there's just not a community yet. I heard it had crossplay, but yeah, I mean, there was no match available, so I couldn't really check it out. Overall, I would say this is probably a wait for a sale, because while I really liked the concept and the implementation of the zero-G locomotion and just the feeling of floating around in space like that, it's great. It feels great. The game itself kind of, took a dive in the second half as far as I was concerned. It didn't really live up to the beginning chapter, and frustrating difficulty spike, poorly designed checkpoint system. There's quite a few issues, but I will say, if you're interested in a zero-G spacewalking game, this is really cool in VR when it works. And if you're willing to deal with the frustration of having to replay segments over and over and over again, wandering around a massive abyss that looks kind of cool but has no useful items or anything for you, it just seems barren, almost like an afterthought. So I don't know, it seems like the second stage is kind of a way to extend the gameplay by making it very obtuse and kind of punishing. That was a little rambly, I suppose, but I will say, I didn't hate it. I did really like it in some parts. If I had to give it a score, I'd say like a 7. I'm going to give it a 7, I guess. There's something to it, but it's not all the way there. So maybe wait for a sale on that one. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate you so much. If you enjoyed this review, go ahead and leave me a like or a comment or a subscribe or anything like that. And I appreciate you so much. Have a good rest of your day.